and it's chapter 14. Fencing was totally cool, which was a surprise. Class was held in a huge room off the gym, and it looked like a dance studio, complete with a floor-to-ceiling wall of mirrors. Hanging from the ceiling along one side were weird, life-size mannequins that reminded me of three-dimensional shooting targets. Everyone called Professor Langford Dragon Langford, or just Dragon. It didn't take me long to figure out why. His tattoo represented two dragons whose bodies, serpent-like, wrapped down over his jawline. Their heads were over his brows, and their mouths were open, breathing fire at the crescent moon. It was amazing, and hard not to stare at. Plus, Dragon was the first adult male vampire I'd seen up close. At first, he confused me. I guess if you asked me what I'd expected a male vampire to look like, I would have said his opposite. Honestly, I had the movie star vampire stereotype in mind: tall, dangerous, handsome, you know, like Vin Diesel. Anyway, Dragon is short, has long blondish hair that he pulls back in a low ponytail, and, except for the fierce dragon looking tattoo, has a cute face with a warm smile. It was only when he began leading the class through its warm-up exercises that I began to realize his power. From the instant he held his sword, which I later found out was called an lads, EPEE, and it's got the wee doots over the two E's, épée. In the traditional salute, he seemed to become someone else, someone who moved with unbelievable quickness and grace. He feinted and lunged and effortlessly made the rest of the class, even the kids who were pretty good, like Damien, look like awkward puppets. When he finished leading the warm-ups, the dragon paired everyone off and had them work on what he called the standards. I was relieved that he motioned for Damien to be my partner. "Zoe, it's good to have you join the House of Night," Dragon said, shaking my hand in the traditional Amazonian vampire greeting. "Damien can explain the different parts of the fencing uniform to you, and I'll get you a handout to study over the next few days. I am assuming that you've no previous instruction in the sport?" "No, I haven't," I said, and then added nervously, "but I'd like to learn. I mean, the whole idea of using a sword is just cool." Dragon smiled. "Foil," he corrected. "You'll be learning how to use a foil. It's the lightest weight of the three types of weapons that we have here, and we've an excellent choice for women. Did you know that fencing is one of the very few sports where women and men can compete on entirely equal terms?" "No," I said, instantly intrigued. How cool would it be to kick a guy's butt at a sport? This is because the intelligent and focused fencer can fully compensate for any perceived deficiencies he or she may have, and even may be able to turn those deficiencies, such as strength or reach, into assets. In other words, you may not be as strong or as fast as your opponent, but you could be smarter or able to remain focused better, which will tip the scales in your favor. Right, Damien?" Damien grinned. "Right." Damien is one of the most focused fencers I've had the privilege to coach in decades, which makes him a dangerous opponent. I snuck a sideways glance at Damien, who flushed with pride and pleasure. For the next week or so, I'll have Damien drill you in the opening maneuvers. Always remember, fencing requires a mastery of skills that are sequential and hierarchical in nature. If one of the skills is not acquired, subsequent skills will be very difficult to master, and the fencer will be at a permanent and serious disadvantage. "Okay, I'll remember," I said. Dragon smiled warmly again, before he moved off to work his way among the practicing pairs. What he means is, don't get discouraged or bored if I make you do the same exercise over and over again. So, what you're really saying is that you're going to be annoying, but there's a purpose behind it. Yep, and part of that purpose will help lift that cute little butt of yours. He actually said that. He said sassily, tapping me on the side with the side of his foil. I slapped at him and rolled my eyes, but after 20 minutes of lunging and settling back into the beginning stance and lunging over and over, I knew he was right. My butt would be killing me tomorrow. We took quick showers after class. Thankfully, there were separate curtain draped stalls for each of us in the girls' locker room, and we didn't have to barbarically and tragically shower in the huge open area like we were in prison or whatever. And then I hurried with the rest of the crowd to the lunchroom, better known as the dining hall. And do I mean hurry? I was starving. Lunch was a huge build your own salad buffet, which included everything from tuna salad to those weird mini corns that are so confusing and don't even taste like corn. What are they exactly? Baby corn? Midget corn? Mutant corn? I piled my plate high and got a big hunk of what looked like and smelled like freshly baked bread and slid into the booth beside Stevie Ray with Damien following close behind me. Erin and Shawnee were already arguing over something to do with whose essay for their lit class was better, even though they'd both gotten 96 on their papers. So, Zoe, give. What about Eric Knight? Stevie Ray asked, the instant I forked a big bite of salad into my mouth. Stevie Ray's words immediately shut up the twins and focused the entire table's attention on me. I thought about what I was going to say about Eric and decided that I wasn't ready to tell everyone about the unfortunate blowjob scene. So instead I said, he kept looking at me, and when they frowned at me, I realized that through the salad in my mouth, what I'd really said was, he kept looking at me. I swallowed and tried again. He kept looking at me. In drama class, it was just, I don't know, confusing. Define looking at me, Damien said. Well, it happened the second he came into class, but it was especially noticeable when he was giving us an example of the monologue. He did that thing from Othello, and when he said the line about love and such, he stared straight at me. I would have thought that it was just an accident or something, but he looked at me before he started the monologue, and then when he was leaving the room. I sighed and squirmed a little, uncomfortable with their way too piercing looks. Never mind, it was probably just an act. Eric Knight is the hottest damn thing in this entire school, Shawnee said. Forget that, he's the hottest damn thing on this planet, Erin said. He's hotter than Kenny Chesney, Stevie Ray said quickly. Okay, just please with your country obsession, Shawnee frowned at Stevie Ray before turning her attention back to me. Do not let this opportunity pass you by. Yeah, Erin echoed, do not. Pass me by? What am I supposed to do? He didn't even say anything to me. Zoe, honey, did you smile back at the boy? Damien asked. I blinked. Had I smiled at him? Ah, crap, I bet I hadn't. I bet I just sat there and stared like a moron, maybe even drooled. Okay, well, I might not have drooled, but still. I don't know, I said, instead of the sad truth, which didn't fool Damien at all. He snorted. Maybe smile at him next time. And maybe say hi, Stevie Ray said. I thought Eric was just a pretty face, Shawnee said. And body, Erin added. Until he dumped Aphrodite, Shawnee continued. When he did, I realized the boy might have something going on upstairs. Well, I can already tell he's got it going on downstairs, Erin said, waggling her eyebrows. Uh-huh, Shawnee said, licking her lips like she was contemplating eating a big piece of chocolate. You two are gross, Damien said. We only meant that he is the cutest butt in town, Miss Priss, Shawnee said. And if you hadn't noticed, Erin said. Uh, oh, as if you hadn't noticed, Erin said. If you started talking to Eric, it would really piss off Aphrodite, Stevie Ray said. Everyone turned and stared at Stevie Ray as if she'd just parted the Red Sea or something. Very true, Damien said. Very true. Shawnee and Erin nodded. So the rumour is that he used to go out with Aphrodite, I said. Yep, Erin said. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of saids in this part, isn't it? This was. We'll continue. The rumour is grotesque but true, Shawnee said, which makes it even better now that he likes you. Guys, he was probably just staring at my weird mark, I blurted. Maybe not. You're really cute, Zoe, Stevie Ray said with a sweet smile. Or maybe your mark made him look, and then he thought that you were cute, so he kept looking, Damien said. Either way, he was looking. His looking will definitely piss Aphrodite off, Shawnee said. Which is a good thing, Erin said. Stevie Ray waved away their comments. Just forget about Aphrodite and your mark and all that other stuff. Next time he smiles at you, say hi. That's all. Easy, Shawnee said. Peasy, Erin said. Okay, I mumbled and went back to my salad, wishing desperately that the whole Eric Knight issue was as easy peasy as they thought it was. One thing about lunch at the House of Night was the same as lunch in SIHS or any other school that I'd eaten at. It was over way too soon. And then Spanish class was a blur. Professora Garmy was like a little Hispanic whirlwind. I liked her right away. Her tattoos looked oddly like feathers, so she reminded me of a little Spanish bird, but she ran the class speaking entirely in Spanish. Entirely. I should probably mention here that I haven't had Spanish since 8th grade, and I freely admit to not paying attention to it then, so I was pretty lost. But I wrote down the homework and promised myself that I'd study the vocab words. I hate being lost. Intro into equestrian studies was held in the field house. It was a long, low brick building over the south wall, attached to a huge indoor riding area. The whole place had a sawdusty, horsey smell that mixed with leather to form something that was pleasant, even though, you know, that part of the pleasant scent was poopy, horse poopy. I stood nervously with a small group of kids just inside the corral where a tall, stern-faced upperclassman had directed us to wait. There were only about 10 of us, and we were all third formers. Oh, great. That annoying red-headed Elliot kid was slouching against the wall and kicking the sawdust floor. He raised enough dust to make a girl standing closest to him sneeze. She threw him a dirty look and moved a few steps away. God, did he irritate everyone? And why couldn't he use some product, or perhaps a comb, on that nappy hair? The sound of hooves drew my attention from Elliot, and I looked up in time to see a magnificent black mare pounding into the corral at full gallop. She slid to a stop a couple of feet in front of us. We were all gawking like fools. The mare's rider dismounted gracefully. She had thick hair that reached her waist and was so blonde that it was almost white. Her eyes were a weird shade of slate grey. Her body was tiny, and the way she stood reminded me of those girls who obsessively take dance classes, so that even when they're not in ballet, they stand like they've something stuck up their butts. Her tattoo was an intricate series of knots entwined around her face. Within the sapphire design, I was sure I could see plunging horses. Good evening. I am Lenobia, and this, she pointed to the mare, and gave the group a contemptuous look before finishing the sentence, is a horse. Her voice rang against the walls. The black mare blew through her nose as if to punctuate her words. And you're my new group of third formers. Each of you has been chosen for my class because we believe you might possibly have an aptitude for riding. The truth is that less than half of you will last the semester, and less than half of those who last will actually develop into decent equestrians. Are there any questions? She didn't pause long enough for anyone to ask anything. Good. Then follow me, and you shall begin. She turned and marched back to the stable. We followed. I wanted to ask, who was the we, uh, who you thought of, that I might have an aptitude for riding? But I was too scared to say anything and just scrambled after her like everyone else. She came to a halt in front of a row of empty stalls. Outside of them were pitchforks and wheelbarrows. Lenobia turned to face us. Horses are not big dogs, nor are they a little girl's romanticized dream image of a perfect best friend who will always understand you. Two girls standing beside me fidgeted guiltily, and Lenobia skewered them with her grey eyes. Horses are work. Horses take dedication, intelligence, and time. We'll begin with the work part. In the tack room down the hall, you'll find mucking boots. Choose a pair wisely, while we all get gloves. Then each of you will take your own stall and get busy. Professor Lenobia, said a chubby girl with a cute face who raised her hand nervously. Lenobia will do, the name I chose in honour of the ancient vampire queen who needs no other title. I didn't have a clue who Lenobia was, and I made a mental note to look it up. Go on, you have a question, Amanda? Yes. Lenobia raised one brow at the girl. Amanda swallowed noisily. Get busy doing what, Lenobia, ma'am? Cleaning out stalls, of course. The manure goes in the wheelbarrows. When your barrow is full, you can dump it in the compost area on the wall side of the stables. There is fresh sawdust in the storage room beside the tack room. You have 50 minutes. I will be back in 45 to inspect your stalls. We all blinked at her. You may commence now. We commenced. Okay, really. I know it's going to sound weird, but I didn't mind cleaning out my stall. I mean, horse poopy just isn't that gross, especially because it was obvious that these stalls were cleaned out like every other instant of the day. I grabbed the mucking boots, which were big rubber galoshes, totally ugly, but they did cover my jeans all the way up to my knees, and a pair of gloves, and got to work. There was music playing through excellent loudspeakers, something I was pretty sure was Enya's latest CD. My mum used to listen to Enya before she married John, but then he decided that it might be witch music, so she quit, which is why I always like Enya. So I listened to the haunting Gaelic lyrics and pitchforked up Poopy. It didn't seem that hard a time, or hardly any time had passed, when I was dumping the wheelbarrow and then filling with clean sawdust. I was just smoothing it in the stall when I got a prickly feeling that someone was watching me. Good job, Zoe. I jumped and whirled around to see Lenobia standing just outside my stall. In one hand she was holding a big, soft curry brush, and in the other she was holding the lead rope of a doe-eyed roan mare. You've done this before, Lenobia said. My grandma used to have a really sweet grey gelding I named Bunny, I said before I realised how stupid I sounded. Cheeks hot, I hurried on. Well, I was 10, and his colour reminded me of Bugs Bunny, so I started calling him, and it stuck. Nobia's lips tilted up into the barest hint of a smile. Was it Bunny's stall you cleaned? Yeah, I like to ride him, and Grandma said that no one should ride a horse unless they'll clean up after one. I shrugged, so I cleaned up after him. Your grandmother is a wise woman. I nodded. And did you mind cleaning up after Bunny? No, not really. Good. Meet Persephone. Lenobia nodded her head at the mare beside me. You've just cleaned her stall. The mare came into the stall and walked straight up to me, sticking her muzzle in my face and blowing gently, which tickled and made me giggle. I rubbed her nose automatically and kissed the warm velvet of her muzzle. Hi there, Persephone, you pretty girl. Lenobia nodded in approval as the mare and I got to know each other. There are only about 5 minutes left before the bell rings for school today, so it's not necessary that you stay as part of today's class, but if you like, I believe you've earned the privilege of brushing Persephone. Surprise, I looked up from patting the horse's neck. No problem, I'll stay, I heard myself saying. Excellent. You can return the brush to the tack room whenever you've finished. I'll see you tomorrow, Zoe. Lenobia handed me the brush. I petted the mare, and and she left us alone in the stall. Persephone stuck her head in the metal rack that held fresh hay and got to work on chewing, while I got to work on brushing. I'd forgotten how relaxing it is to groom a horse. Bunny had died of a sudden and very scary heart attack 2 years ago. My grandma had been too upset to get another horse. She said that the rabbit, which is what she used to call him, couldn't be replaced. So it had been 2 years since I'd been around a horse, but it came back to me instantly, all of it. The smells, the warm, soothing sound of a horse eating, and the gentle whoosh of the curry brush as it slid over the mare's slick coat. At the edge of my attention, I vaguely heard Lenobia's voice, sharp and angry. She was totally chewing out a student, and I guessed it was the annoying red-headed kid. I peeked over Persephone's shoulder and got a quick look down the stall line. Sure enough, there was the red-headed kid. He was slouched in front of his stall. Zenobia stood beside him, hands on her hips. Even from the side view, I could tell she was mad as hell. Was it the kid's mission to piss off every teacher here? And his mentor was Dragon? Okay, the guy was nice until he picked up a sword, foil. Then he shifted from nice guy to deadly, dangerous vampire warrior guy. The red-headed slug kid must have had a death wish, I told Persephone as I returned to grooming. The mare twitched an ear back at me and blew through her nose. Yep, I knew you'd agree. Want to hear my theory about how my generation could single-handedly wipe out slugs and loser kids from America? She seemed so receptive, so I launched into my don't procreate with losers speech. Zoe, there you are. Oh my God, Stevie Ray, you scared the poo out of me. I patted and reassured Persephone, who had shied away when I squealed. What in the world are you doing? I waggled the curry brush in her direction. What does it look like I'm doing, Stevie Ray? Getting a pedicure? Stop messing around. The full moon ritual is going to start in like 2 minutes. Ah, hell. I gave Persephone one more pat and hurried out of the stall to the tack room. You forgot all about it, didn't you? Stevie Ray said, holding my hand to help me balance, while I kicked my feet out of the rubber boots and put on my cute little ballet slippers back on. No, I lied, and then I realized I'd also forgotten all about the Dark Daughters ritual afterward. Oh, hell. That's the end of chapter 14.